Welcome, everybody, once again to another week of What's the Status, a podcast done, created by an artist for the artists and the artistry. And I want to point out something. I want to give a big shout out to my super hot, beautiful girlfriend, Michelle, who is a producer, an executive producer, in addition to, I would even say, co-creator of this podcast. You know, she's the one that planted the seed in my head for me to create this platform for myself to have a voice and speak to people that, you know, allot some time to listen to me and whatnot. And this week, we're going to start with the subject of politics, propaganda, and you, the individual, the U.S. citizen, the resident, the inhabitant, the person that lives here in the United States of America, and how you play a role with all the previous things that I just mentioned with politics and propaganda. And we'll catch up to that. But I want to start this podcast first with a quote. I'm in a very Pulp Fiction-like feeling. I feel like Jules in this moment. So I want to start with Ezekiel 25:17. And it'll all make sense once this all is pieced together. And it goes like this, a reminder. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the inequities of the selfish and tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he, in the name of charity and goodwill, shepherds the weak through the valley of the darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee. Now, I'm not going to come here and, with great vengeance and furious anger, but I will come with great source of knowledge and information that I want to plant. And, there's many seeds that I want to plant, and this is now a day after the disaster of the first debate that happened. And this is really, I needed that debate to really fuel the inspiration for me to do this episode. And I want everybody to know, not always are we going to have a special guest chiming in and coming on board and speaking their piece. We will next week. We will the week after, maybe not the week after, but this is the direction that the podcast is going to head. This is the direction that the vision that we had to inspire and put out information out there for everybody to take advantage and, most importantly, use their right to vote. So let's jump in. I'm not gonna go into a full John Jay College of Criminal Justice and law and law and science and whatnot, but I want to give a few definitions on certain categories of that plays a part in today's political climate. So first off, I want to start off with the U.S. House of Representatives. What is the U.S. House of Representatives? This is the house where passing of laws and bills occur. Who inhabits the House of Representatives? There's two floors. There's the Senate floor and there's the Congress floor. The Senate floor has senators, obviously. And what do senators do? Senators propose debates over the creation of new laws or in need of an update on a previous law. They can vote to allow for that law that's either proposed or needs to be, updated for it to be passed or not. They also deal as prosecutors for impeachment, like previously half a year ago, Trump was impeached. They called up people, they subpoenaed individuals to come on board and speak on behalf of Trump or in his defense to get Trump out of that or really pressed on the impeachment. And also they act as the committee that hears out for, hearings when they promote a new judge for the Supreme Court. Like it's going to happen now with the new justice that has been really rushed and pushed forward to take over Ruth Bader Ginsburg's position. So this is one half of the U.S. House of Representatives, and every state has a senator. Every 50 states of the United States has a senator, and these are the people that speak on behalf of each of those states. Now, the other half of the U.S. House of Representatives are the congressmen and women. Congressmen or women represents the people of their congressional district in a way where they hold hearings on behalf of their district. So here in New York City, if you all grab your phone right now, this is how easy it is. You look up, what congressional district am I in? You research that, you put in your congressional district, and it'll tell you who actually represents you. And this such individual holds hearings that consist of developing and bringing up bills that can best represent the people in that area. And what do I mean by represent people in the area? Of course, it all deals with money, funding. How can this area get more money so that there could be more fixing and more things that can come that benefits the people that inhabit that area? Now, once Congress has this law that they want to pass, and once it is passed, in the House of Representatives, then it gets sent up to the president, where the president must sign and or veto that bill. Veto meaning shut that bill down. This is where basically politics takes place. So if you all take notice, I'm going to point out Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham is that individual from South Carolina. He's a senator from South Carolina. And in the past, he was not a Trump guy. Once Trump came on board and seemed to be that guy, he immediately got into bed with Trump. And why? Susan Collins, senator from Maine. Why is she well, I don't think she's as popular with Trump now, but she was also in bed with Trump, and I don't mean, literally, but it's basically that anything that Trump would say, they would support no matter what the science, no matter how much evidence. Trump could have lit somebody on fire right in front of their face and they would have said, I didn't see nothing happen. And why is that? This is where politics kicks in, because if you're a senator and you write a bill, a law, and it passes and the president has to sign, he's going to keep into consideration, I'm going to pass this law that was created by Lindsey Graham. I'm going to support him. This is where the give and take comes in. But I don't want to get to that just yet. I want everybody to understand the clear and distinctive difference of Congress, men and women, and senators, U.S. senators. Now, those are at the highest, federal level in terms of like representatives that the United States have to offer. Here in New York City, we have borough presidents, we have city council members, we have judges, we have a lot of people that are also not so different than congressmen and senators. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is each of these job titles, they're all voted in. So for you listening right now, let me ask you this. When was the last time you ever voted for a judge? When was the last time you ever voted for a congressman or a senator? Do you know how long the terms are for congressmen or senators? Did you all know here in New York City what a city council member does, or a borough president? What is their duty? Did you all know that there is a borough president? Because a borough president is very, very important when it comes to the handling and the dealings of what happens in each borough. A borough president advises the mayor on what the borough needs. It plays a part in the budget process and also in the appointment of community officials. This is why I want to promote and really put out what these job titles do, as I mentioned previously, and why it's important to vote. The reason I started this podcast is because I really wanted people to really get an understanding of why it's very important to vote. I hate how right now everybody is saying vote, vote, vote. Yeah, there is a presidential election. Yes, there is a time now that we all must do our due diligence to cast our votes, put in our ballots, or show up and really vote. But I created this episode because I want people to know the importance of elections that happen before presidential elections, which are, to me, more important. They are the most important elections ever. A lot of people are angry right now with the whole Breonna Taylor situation where the police were not really charged in her murder. And then there was one charge, and it was a wanton charge because they endangered the neighbors that were shot at by this who's already been fired, ex-detective officer, blah, blah, blah. So how do you get justice in this situation, since the attorney general already got what was needed for this case? Now, here's where I tell you guys why voting is important. This attorney general, Daniel Cameron, you can all grab your phone. Look, I'm grabbing my phone right now. I'm going to Google Kentucky AG Daniel Cameron. Here we go. I see who Daniel Cameron is. Daniel Cameron, a Republican, Attorney General of Kentucky, was voted in November of 2019. How long is his service going to be for the office of the Attorney General in Kentucky? 4 years. In other words, on November 2019, people who knew of this man showed up to the polls and they voted this man in. If you don't like what just happened right now with Breonna Taylor, Here is how you, the individual, has power. 3 years from now, he's going to have to run for re-election for attorney general. You guys can protest, you can riot, you can do all that you want, but the laws of this country was built for you to have your voice heard on the ballot, on the polls. You have that power. When I hear people in the entertainment industry and the artistic communities that they are not voting because politicians are crooked, guess what? They're taking advantage of the fact that you think that way, because people are actually showing up to vote these clowns in, and they're in power and they're taking advantage of the situation. When my father was running for politics, he was running for city council member of the 7th district here in Manhattan. My father was going up against an individual that had 20 plus years in that position. Now, city council members, along with senators and some other positions in office here, local offices in New York City, they only can run and not run, but they can run and stay in office for 2 years before they have to go for re-election. Congress is the same thing. Congressmen and women every 2 years, the first year they actually spend on the job, but then the next half of that year is them, promoting themselves so they can be re-elected again. But sticking back on track, this is how people take advantage of the system. Not everybody knows that you can vote for a judge. Judges can serve anywhere between 5 and 10 years. So now this is what I am imploring. I am literally putting my hands together and I'm begging you all to please take voting very serious, because this is how we get change to happen. In New York City, a lot of people are upset with the police. I will be honest with you. Throughout the years that I've been paying attention to current events, this goes back to the Sean Bell shooting up until now, who gets to appoint the chief of police? Who's the person that puts in a lot of pressure on their fellow officers to do the right thing, to hold them accountable? It starts with the mayor. The mayor picks the chief of police. And if the chief of police is being told what to do from the mayor, then you got to follow the string of where this is all coming from. You cannot sit there and tell me that you don't want to vote because things won't play out the way that they're supposed to play out. Everything is corrupt. Well, if we continue with this mindset, this is exactly what is going to happen. So how do we change this? How do we get our voices heard? If we don't do our due diligence of voting, not only are we letting people down like, John Lewis, the rest in peace, John Lewis, who marched to Selma with Dr. Martin Luther King, took beat downs to give us this opportunity of minorities, the brown and black people that are listening to this, the opportunity to cast your vote. We're letting people that fought for so many years to give us this opportunity to do so. I really don't understand the mentality that this comes in. And I understand that, throughout the years, there's been a lot of letdown, but it's created to be that way because the individual that doesn't look for these information, doesn't try to even put a portion of yourself involved in politics and current events, this is how we get taken advantage of. How are we supposed to progress and move forward when we are staying blind and we're not really doing the research to do such a thing? So going back to the Breonna Taylor situation with Attorney General Daniel Cameron, he was the lead prosecutor in this whole situation, and he doesn't want to release the grand jury recordings. So what do I do? What would I, Pedro, your host, what would I do in this situation? I would mark my calendar. Let's see, he was voted in 2019, took office in 2020 now. So come 2023, when his, re-election campaign comes around, I'm going to make sure that man does not get voted back in. And this goes around the country, everywhere you are. So I ask you all, please look at the district that you live in. Who represents your district? You must vote, because this is how the situation gets treated, in a point that us who want change get the change that they want. Now, here's something else that I wanted to bring up. In 2016, we all know what the outcome was. President Donald Trump became the 45th president of the United States. However, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by over 3 million votes. The same thing happened in the year 2000 with Al Gore and President W. Bush. Al Gore won the popular election, but he lost because of the Electoral College. What is the Electoral College? What constitutes for the Electoral College? It's a body of electors established by the United States Constitution. This was created in order for people that, you don't want to cheat the system. In 2016, there was a guy that ran under the name of D's Nuts. D's Nuts ran for president. And believe it or not, he actually got 10% of the vote, needed to actually get into a ballot. D's Nuts actually got into the ballot. And I wouldn't be surprised if D's Nuts actually did a better job than the current president that we have now, especially after the debate that I saw yesterday. However, this is why the Electoral College, which is a system that each state gets a certain numbers of electors based on its total number of representatives in Congress, each elector casts one electoral vote in order to elect in the general election. So there's a total of 538 electoral votes. Remember when I told you guys that we all needed to vote for congressmen and women? This is where this comes in. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, lost the Electoral College. There were many people in the Electoral College that voted for Trump. This is now where we, the voter, has to take precedence, and we have to really put our part in. I cannot stress how important it is to vote. Next topic I want to talk about: lobbying, lobbyists. You must be careful who you vote for. You must do the research. I literally grabbed my phone. I Googled the Attorney General, Daniel Cameron, and all sorts of information came in. But there's one topic that a lot of people do not know about, and it's lobbying. What is lobbying? Lobbying it's either an individual or group of people who want to influence the direction of laws for the government. And now this is not to say that this is a bribe, although there is an exchange of money. There is a heavy influence of money that goes about when you're lobbying. An example of lobbying would be, why is it that marijuana has been so difficult to make it? We all know it's herbal and healing properties and how it helps people with pain, but why can't it be passed on a nation scale? Well, you got the cigarette companies that are lobbying, pumping millions of dollars every year so that this does not happen. And why? Because they fear that if marijuana gets passed, cigarette sales will go down and they're going to lose money. So in their budget, they lobby senators, they lobby congressmen to keep them in their pocket so that this does not happen. No, it's not bribery because it's not going directly in the pockets of senators or congressmen. It's actually in forms of donations. So here's a personal experience that I can tell you. Here in New York City, Mayor de Blasio, I'll tell you all straight up. 2 years ago, I was the MC for a holiday party for this. I don't remember the name of the company. I do too many of these, I'll be honest with you. But I did a party, but the owner of this company, this, ultra conservative Jewish man, he held this holiday party for his employees. I thought nothing of it. And he brought in Mayor de Blasio to come in and give a speech. And I'm like, who is this man that has the power to get Mayor de Blasio to come in and speak for 5 minutes? And newly elected Letitia James, the New York State Attorney General, was also brought in. Like, she was literally the elect, like just won the election, and she was also brought in. And I'm thinking to myself, how much money did this man give these people to get this power over them, to get them to come in and chime in a rinky-dink holiday party? And this is where lobbying comes in. This is what I mean. People spend upwards of thousands, hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. They give it to politicians in the form of donation. So then these politicians, when it comes down to returning the favor right back to them, boom, there you have it. You have them right in the palm of their hands. Right here in New York City, we have an uptick of coronavirus in specific neighborhoods of the Jewish faith community. In no way this is a knock or me being anti-Semitic. I'm just keeping it real. I'm keeping it real. Why is it that everywhere else outside of these religious neighborhoods, people of color were getting slammed on the ground by the cops, were getting arrested and heavily fined for not abiding by social distancing. But you see, in these communities, their yeshiva schools were open and nothing, not even a fine was given to them because their community leaders are lobbyists and they have Mayor de Blasio in their hand, in the palm of their hand. This is how lobbying works. Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, you can look up who donates to Senator Mitch McConnell. I did so. Chevron, Alliance Coal, amongst a few that donate to Senator Mitch McConnell. This is all public record. You can all use the power of Google. Google is an incredible thing to use if you really use it to your advantage. How is Mitch McConnell involved with Chevron and Alliance Coal? I'll tell you why. He is a major climate change denier. We all see the hurricanes. We all see the aftermath of what these powerful hurricanes have been in the past 5-10 years. Going back to Hurricane Katrina, we all see what the aftermath is once this happens. But why do senators balk when it comes down to making such progress for clean energy to fuel the power and energy of this country? Well, if you got companies like Chevron and Alliance Coal funding your campaign so that you can continue, which, by the way, Mitch McConnell is on the ballot come November 3rd. Please do your due diligence to vote people in and out that are not in the best interest of us as human beings and the country. But people like Alliance Coal, those are coal mining companies. Do you think a coal mining company wants to see clean energy be the source of power in the United States? Of course not, because then there's no use of coal. Then their company goes down the toilet and that's the end of that. They don't want this to happen. This is what lobbying is, people. This is what it is. And this is all in public record. I took 5 minutes out of my time to look, not even 40 seconds, because I was looking at other things and boom, I landed on all this information. And this is something I did years ago because I wanted to know, why is it such a hypocrisy and the audacity that we are in a climate change like situation? We can have all the climate change people do what they do in the United Nations and speak. But if we don't get the senators and the congressmen on board to listen to this message, it's not going to happen. This is why, again, voting is pivotal and it is very, very important. And if you don't know who Mitch McConnell is yet, he is one of the most racist men, one of the most the audacity of this man to be in office, hold this position and not care about people like us, individuals of urban communities, of big cities that have, systematic racism, systematic oppression, but he thinks that everything is okay. Why? Because he is funded and he is a puppet and he is in the pocket of a lot of major companies. Now, how does this all play about? I don't want to sound like I'm being someone that's, pitching propaganda here. I definitely do not want anybody to take away that I am pitching propaganda. What is the definition of propaganda? Information, especially of a biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view. No, I want people to really take this time, take this message to really think about everything that I just said and the power that we each have. It's just that the media doesn't put it out there. Social media doesn't put it out there. People like me that I don't have a lot of followers, but I put this information out there is not reshared enough so that other people can get this. This is why Black Lives Matter doesn't have a leader, because people that hold leaderships in such position are either killed off or the media comes for them and exploits them. And then boom, the cause is dead. Look at Dr. Martin Luther King. He needed to be shot in order for the rise in Black power could be shot down. I could say the same with the Nation of Islam. You had Malcolm X, who was really wanting to fight. He really wanted to fight and stand up. Of course, they had to put a muzzle on him. This is what propaganda is. You don't have leadership. I went to the protests here in New York City. And you know what I saw in these protests? I saw a lot of blind sheeps leading other blind sheeps. Not to take away from that cause. You have the right to exercise your First Amendment of free speech, to go out there and voice your opinion and voice your anger and frustration at how the system is. But that's not where it ends. That's just the start. Where it ends, it's in the voting polls. But propaganda, the media and social media, they don't put this information out there. They do not. Why is this information so difficult to find? Why is it so difficult to look for? It actually isn't. It's just that they don't want you to know this. Because if you are well informed and you know how the system works, then there's no need to be in the streets and protesting. And then they cover that situation. And then that's all clickbait and all media focus. All the protesters, they're peacefully protesting, the rioters. That's what they want. They don't want you to be informed. And I remember being a young man and seeing the one percenters, that you got to fight the power. Knowledge is truth. And now I understand it. You got social media distraction. You got media distraction. They don't put this information. Why is there not a segment on the news, if you watch the news, or even commercials that pitch in people, please become informed of who your senators are. Please become informed of who your congressman is or congresswoman is. These are the people that make the major decisions and move the country forward. These are the major people that actually vote for the president of the United States. You can cast your vote and the president can be elected through the popular vote. But if the electoral college done by congressmen and women, people of the House, if they don't pick that person like you did, that person does not become president of the United States. Thus, me telling you all why the importance of voting is important. I can't stress that enough. So on that note, please be wary of propaganda. This is now my psychology background coming into play. This is now me telling you from a psychology background is anything that I see, I question. Mitch McConnell, in my first episode, I said, what's the deal with this guy? Who is putting money into this man's pocket? When you find out who it is, you'll see, I see. This is why he's such a climate denier. This is why he's an individual that doesn't allow laws of equality to pass, because there are people that are influencing his decision. So I want everybody to know that come November 3rd, 2020, you are not just voting for the president of the United States. You're also, some of you are voting for new congressmen, new senators. You're all doing this. And this is very, very important. Look at the situation right now with the whole Judiciary Committee. Right now, a new justice, the new Supreme Court, Amy Coney Barrett, she is now to be sworn in. Why is she being sworn in just merely weeks before an actual election? In 2016, February, I'll never forget this, February of 2016, there were, many months before the election, before Trump versus Hillary happened, Antonin Scalia, a Supreme Court justice, passed away. Obama, a sitting president, put his vote in. He put his pick in for who he would have wanted to fill that seat in. Mitch McConnell said, no, we must let the American people vote. We must let them decide, and we will then move on with the proceedings. Basically, he said, Obama, you can't pick. We're going to let the new president pick. But here's the irony of this. If that's the case, and we were to have entered war, does Obama, the sitting president, not have the power to decide if we are to enter war or not? But that's a whole other topic. So that was the argument, which basically deblocked Obama's pick and Merrick Garland, which now this same scenario comes into play right now. But the hypocrisy is that, no, we're going to rush this and we're going to do this in. And then why? Here we go. Here's the magic word. Why? Well, there are pending cases that are going to be, decided within the next few months. And here's the dealio. This judge that, if I'm sure she's going to be elected, Amy Coney Barrett, is on record of she doesn't support Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade is a fundamental Supreme Court case that basically allowed and legalized abortion. So because it is a pending case, and if she is, put on the seat of the Supreme Court, which, by the way, it's a lifetime seat. If she is on the seat, now this makes it 6 conservatives to 3 liberals. So this puts in LGBTQ people. This puts in abortion rights, women's reproductive system, and liberty of all of those things. This is huge, people. This is very huge. And I'm not trying to be a fear-mongering individual right now. I just want you to know the seriousness of how important this is. This is why we have to vote, because these are the people that preside and they make decisions over what our lives will look like in the next 30 to 40, 50 years. Who knows how long this goes for? And of course, they want to really push this pick in, because not only is she going to make her decision, her conservative point of view on Roe v. Wade, amongst other major issues that need to be dealt with in the country, but this can totally set all the progress that has been done within the past 20 years completely backwards. And that is totally unfair for all of us. And this is where I need you all to really take this information and be very serious about it. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about elections is this, and the importance of election is, in November of 2019, about a year ago, there was a proposition as one of the votes, and it was here in New York, and it regarded the NYPD. And basically it was, should there be an independent review board to basically, an agency comes in, receives the complaints that has been set out on a particular NYPD officer, or, whatever the case may be with the department. Should it be an independent agency, or should it be an internal, meaning people within the NYPD, to make judgment on these cases? I voted yes, we need an independent agency. And guess what? That law was passed. I'm not hating on the NYPD, but I mean, come on. We need someone that's independent to come in. And this is the power of voting. Not only do you vote to make your voice heard, but you're also voting so that people that are seeing these election results know where the country is headed. There are actually people that care. Now, since 2016, based on the voting that the results of the election that I saw there's a lot of people that do not want to see equal progress in this country. And this is now where we come in. So now I finalize this on you. How do you play a role in this? You play a major role, whether you are a dancer, whether you are an actor, whether you are a dentist, whatever your profession is. This is where your voice is very important and will be very much needing to resonate in this election year as possible. And of course, next year as well, and the years after, because your voice needs to be heard. You have the power. I broke down what the Electoral College is. I broke down who are in the Electoral College. I broke down how we can really make sure that whoever you are voting for, if you're at the voting poll, you aren't rushed. You can grab your ballot, and you can easily Google who the people are, really research who you're voting for, and really put in person's name, donor, and everything will be released online. It is public record as part of the First Amendment and our constitutional right to know and voice our opinion, to know that this is all out there. This is all information. You have this power. I know a lot of people that believe that by not voting, you're basically just saying, I'm not voting, so it'll fix itself out. Guess what? In 2016, everybody that decided not to vote for Hillary and Trump, guess what? Or even voted for someone in the Green Party, that all equaled the vote for Trump, because your voice was muted. Your voice was put under a rug, and the voices that were actually heard are the people that are now in the position that they are running wild with their point of views and their racism and all the discrimination that they spew out of their mouths. This is how you as an individual play a role. Initially, I wanted this podcast to be 15 minutes. I'm taking a peek, and I'm half an hour in. For you who are of a minority background, who are LGBTQ, who have been at a disadvantage since you can remember, what is this all for? Why do you live in the country, in the land of the free? Why are you living here and not exercising your Bill of Rights? There are Bill of Rights that were created that are being manipulated against you, and you have the equal way of manipulating that Bill of Rights to your advantage. I am not a fearmonger. I am not. I am about equality. I am about justice. I'm not on the far left. I don't believe in the cancel culture. I don't believe in defunding the police, which is an awful term to pretty much say reallocate some money in the funding of police. Let's be clear. It's not to put the police funding down to zero or disbanding of the police in certain states. I don't believe in that. I believe we need our law enforcement. I just think we need accountability within law enforcement because there are bad apples and these bad apples need to be picked and discarded of. I don't believe in cancel culture. I believe in giving people a second chance and giving them the opportunity, give them due process. We can't cancel each other out. That is what I believe in. That is what I would hope many people believe in. Cancel culture is not the way to go. Defunding the police is not the way to go. You as an individual have the power to change the country, change the personality and point of view and the direction of this country with the power of voting. And I hope that you who are listening to this really takes this seriously. And I hope that come November 3rd, we see that our voices have been heard. We see that we can be a group of people. My millennials, we are young, yes, but we also have the due diligence in our power to take advantage of voting and setting the country in the way that it needs to go. And on that note, thank you all for making it this far into the podcast. Once again, I am not a fearmonger. I did this podcast because I would hope that the knowledge that I have and the knowledge that I know would resonate with other people, especially in the entertainment industry and the artistic community. But I do hope that you all take this matter very seriously moving forward, not just now in this November 3rd election. There will be elections come next November as well. And on that note, thank you all once again. This is What's the Status podcast. Once again, see you all next week where we have a very exciting special guest that I'm looking very forward to interviewing, and you will all get a taste of that. And on that note, have a great rest of your week and peace. For more on What's the Status and to stay up to date, make sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram and YouTube at What's the Status Podcast. Also, feel free to reach out via email at what'sthestatuspodcast@gmail.com. Dímelo.